Okay, so you're in the middle of a conversation about science fiction and fantasy. Specifically, you were talking about how to create and write tech or magic for your story. And then inevitably somebody pipes up with Clarke's third law saying, well, actually, sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. At which point everybody either nods sagely and moves on, or a fight breaks out. I have seen this play out multiple times. Okay, I've been the guy who has quoted Clarke's third law multiple times. The thing is that this only captures part of the picture. When most people say this quote, they're really only getting maybe half of what it actually has to offer. So in this video, I'm going to define Clarke's third law, and we're going to talk about where and who it comes from. Then we are actually going to dig deeper into the different things that it has to offer. And by the end, you will understand the true significance of Clarke's third law and what that means for you and your stories. Hi, I'm Clarke Rowanson, the Magic Engineer, and your guide to stories beyond reality. So let's take a second and talk about this Clarke guy. No, not this Clarke guy, this Clarke guy. This is Arthur C. Clarke, and he is a renowned science fiction and science writer. He won all kinds of awards through the 1960s, 70s, and 80s. He wrote a large body of work, but his probably best known for 2001: A Space Odyssey, which, in addition to becoming a foundational piece of science fiction, has also been a primary point of satire for movies throughout the past several decades. In addition to being a prolific writer, Arthur C. Clarke was also an avid futurist, which is to say a person specialized or interested in exploring predictions and possibilities about future and how our technology and societies are going to develop. So I know you are asking two questions. One, why are we talking about all of this? And two, when are we actually going to get to this law that you clicked on this video to learn about? Well, to answer the first question, because context matters. To answer the second question, right now. Clarke's third law is actually, well, his third law. Now, there's no time for you to marvel at my powers of deduction, so let's look at all three of them, shall we? Clarke's first law states, when a distinguished but elderly scientist states that something is possible, he is almost certainly right. When he states that something is impossible, he is very probably wrong. The second law states that the only way of discovering the limits of the possible is to venture a little way past them into the impossible. And you've already heard the third law many times probably, but the third law is simply any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Despite how much we hear the third law thrown around and bandied about, we almost never hear about the first two laws. Why? Well, the first two laws are useful if you are trying to examine the world we live in and predict what it might become. So in other words, they're basically most useful to futurists like Arthur. On top of that, the third law is by far the most concise and quotable of the three laws. It also is the most broadly applicable. Well, maybe not the most broadly, but it clearly applies to writing fiction, which is what we care about in this video. Plus, let's be honest, everybody loves quoting famous people to win an argument. Something, transitive property of intelligence, something. So now you know what Clarke's third law is and where it came from. So what is it that people are missing? I mean, that's the entire premise of the video, right? So it's high time that Clarke gave you some answers. No, not that Clarke. This Clarke. Most of the time when I hear people quoting Clarke's third law, they're only ever quoting it in one direction, which is to say they're using it to show that technology can feel like magic, which makes sense. That's what the quote says on the surface, because here is what is super cool. We can actually apply that law in reverse. So allow me to introduce you to something I call Agatha's Law. Now, this isn't a formal law that anybody recognizes about storytelling. It's something that was made as a pithy comment in a side adventure from a webcomic called Girl Genius, where Agatha says, Any sufficiently explained magic is indistinguishable from technology. It's true though, and it is so important to think of it both ways. Let's talk about an example. Let's say you wake up tomorrow and you have developed true magical telepathy. Science cannot explain how it works. Well, you could make a fake phone app that generates random Rorschach images and claim that it's reading people's brainwaves and that you have simply learned to interpret it. If you are convincing, then people will believe you. They will be amazed, but it won't be recognized as magic, and therefore you won't be burned alive for being a witch. Probably. If you haven't already, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe to my channel. It helps new people find my content, and this way, my channel can grow naturally and I won't have to resort to witchcraft and risk being burned at the stake. That would be preferable. So you see what I mean with the example, right? Tech can feel like magic, but magic can also feel like tech. That is one of the hidden layers of Clarke's third law. The final and possibly most important takeaway that we can have from Clarke's third law is that exact classifications of magic or tech don't actually matter. It's really more about context, presentation, and information. Let me explain. One could easily take a lightsaber and make it look like a magical blade gifted by the gods. Inversely, we can easily take a magical blade gifted by the gods and make it feel like a lightsaber. All of this is done by playing with how it is presented, what information the characters and the audience have, as well as the context in which the blade appears. You can make it feel like whatever you want it to feel like, regardless of what it actually is, which is so cool, I think. I mean, I'm a nerd, but yeah, it's cool. So what does this mean for you? Well, next time somebody throws out Clarke's third law like some kind of holy scripture for speculative fiction writing, you now have some conceptual ammunition to start a whole new conversation, a whole new fight, or both. This quote is no longer just a tool to win arguments now. It is a reminder of the vast potential you hold as the creator of worlds and stories. And that is the true hidden power of Clarke's third law. And now that you have a deeper meaning of Clarke's third law and what it implies and what it can mean, you can approach both magic and tech with a broader understanding and be less constrained in your thinking. Because the most common question I get when I am coaching writers is, does my magic make sense? Or does my tech feel too hand-wavy, or some variation of that? Well, now you know the answer is that it depends. Most importantly, you now know how to get what you want by controlling context, information, and presentation, which is fabulous. Now that you truly understand all of this, you are ready to dive into something deeper, because there is a universal framework that treats tech, magic, and more all as variations of the same thing. It is something I call Reality Plus, and you are now ready to learn more about it. You excited? I'm excited. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope this changed how you think about Clarke's third law. And until next time, take a minute, show a struggling writer that you care, and send them this video. But whatever you do, make sure that you keep writing and stay awesome.